Hey, what's up, all you filthy animals? I hope you guys have become even filthier and more animalistic since our last encounter. I'm aware that my last video was garbage, but being the animals that you are, I figured it was good enough, so I released it nonetheless. This week, another unfortunate film found its way into my jungle, and being the primate that I am, I had no choice but to defend my territory and release my inner ape in a full-scale ape attack. It all started with any ordinary date night. An air of anticipation accompanied us as we began the timeless ritual of my wife passively but assuredly picking a movie for us to watch. You may be thinking to yourself, why, Mr. Ape? Why would you feel any sense of anticipation when you know that Mrs. Ape will more than likely preside over tonight's choosing? The answer is simple. I endured my punishment of watching the Mulan remake with a dignity and poise akin to that of a dancing lemur at the pinnacle of its waltz. I know how the game is played, however, so I still dutifully asked Mrs. Ape what she wanted to watch, fully expecting her to say, "You choose tonight," or some variation of that scarcely uttered sentence. A strange answer came my way as she said, I wonder what a woman like me would want to watch. Very odd the way she emphasized certain words, I thought, but I persisted. You aren't sure what you want to watch? I asked. She replied again saying, it seems like we've been wondering what to watch since 1984. Like, just let a woman watch something. Her sinister end goal became crystal clear from that moment, and I felt the lasso of truth tighten into a metaphorical noose around my neck. The thought of watching another poorly made movie caused my tender and recently healed nips to immediately start bleeding once again. Please, the only way to staunch the flow of blood is if you dirty animals will like and subscribe. It's the only sustainable cure. Please. Let's get into the film. I'll give a quick blow-by-blow, but it does include spoilers, so be aware. The movie starts with a 10-plus minute scene where we see a young Diana compete with a bunch of battle-hardened Amazonian women and some sort of American Gladiator knockoff. The CGI is shockingly bad. I think they put their second-string animation team in there to let the A-team prepare for the ridiculous scenes ahead. The crowds reminded me of those NCAA football video games on PS2 back in the early 2000s. Anyways, young Wonder Woman is doing really well, and at one point she mounts a horse, and I'm not in the business of checking out anyone's legs other than my own wife's, but my ape sensors started firing on all cylinders, and I did a double take as I noticed the monster tree trunks that somehow appeared on young Diana right here.
What are those?
She ends up using a shortcut to nearly win the race, but then she gets busted for cheating, and you realize the entire 10-minute scene was to teach a lesson we've been taught from the earliest stages of youth. Cheating is bad. Fast forward to 1984, or at least a cheap concoction of all the 1980s stereotypes, and we run into a classic gang of thugs robbing a jewelry store. But they aren't robbing the store per se. They're robbing the black market antique shop in the back room. We see an extremely cheesy scene that looks like it's out of a Disney TV show. This crazed individual is holding a girl over the edge yelling, "I won't go back." I assume he's talking about prison, but this seems like a pretty fast way to go back. Wonder Woman saves the girl by swinging down and grabbing her, and then she continues to swing down and drops her off against this mechanical horse where you can literally hear her body thump against it. I think that sometimes Wonder Woman forgets that she is nearly invincible and that she's handling some precious cargo in the form of this little tiny frail girl. I just hope she doesn't have internal bleeding after that. Between these first two scenes, I knew I was in for a long night. Next we see Diana feeling sad about her long-lost Steve. He must have been a tremendous lover, seeing as it's been just a few years shy of a century since their relationship ended. And given the fact that they only knew each other for a short time. We meet Kristen Wiig, and she's doing her usual bit of being a quirky, awkward, lame character that you're not supposed to like. Her and Wonder Woman hit it off, and she realizes that she wants to be everything that Wonder Woman is: strong, attractive, desirable.
Low-life con man.
I am not a con man!
We then meet Max Lord, who's played by Pedro Pascal. He's an incompetent businessman with investors nipping at his heels in a desire to show his son and the world that he's not a loser. After finding out that the Smithsonian is now holding an artifact of great worth, he decides to donate a large sum of money to get closer to what we find out later is the Dream Stone. A magical stone that grants the user a wish in exchange for something else. Yeah, we've all encountered this idea 100 times. It's based off The Monkey's Paw, a short story about wishes coming at a price. As a self-respecting ape, I personally don't appreciate a monkey's paw being used as a symbol of punishable greed, but I can't rewrite history. Diana and Kristen Wiig both make wishes that shortly thereafter come true. Kristen Wiig is imbued with power and beauty, and all of a sudden she's desired. And meanwhile, a man accosts Wonder Woman at a party, and it turns out it's Steve back from the dead. I had to pause to try to wrap my quickly decaying mind around this one. To put it simply, Steve's consciousness takes over the body of this man. We see him as Chris Pine, but in reality, he still looks like the poor guy who's been booted from his body. At the very best, he ceases to exist for the period of time his body is hijacked, but at the worst, he's in some sort of hellish purgatory, wondering what he did to deserve this. They happily inherit his earthly possessions, even spending a very platonic night in his bed together, without once stopping to consider the morality of their actions. She helps get Steve acquainted with the current time period, and he acts amazed, and as if he's in wonderment, even though he spent several days in this poor meat sack trying to search for her, which he finally does find her with a phone book. Max Lord seduces Kristen Wiig, and she gives up the Dreamstone. He makes a wish to become the Dreamstone, and he's lucky it's not one of those artifacts where it takes you very literally, or else the movie would have ended right there as he turns to stone. Probably would have been a good call because the movie starts getting really twisted and muddled at this point, and not in a cool way like in the movie Inception. No, this is a much different beast that rears its ugly head. Where Inception is well written with complex, multi-layered ideas, this quickly pieced together script feels like a rough draft that everyone read through and said, YOLO, let's push this through and make some money, baby. So buckle up because Max Lord has started going around the world granting wishes left and right. There are all sorts of consequences starting to emerge, but he needs more as he is loving the idea of getting whatever he wants in return for granting wishes. Wonder Woman starts thinking that it's a little weird that old Steve is back from the dead, and she suspects the stone to be the source of his return. So upon hearing that Max Lord is in Egypt, and he was the last person to have the stone, she decides they need to get there ASAP. She takes Steve over to the Smithsonian, where they steal a fully fueled, battle-ready aircraft jet. I don't remember them having that in Night at the Museum. Luckily, piloting a plane is like riding a bike. Once you've done it once, you can do it with any plane, no matter how advanced the technology. I mean, come on, they have to realize how dumb this is. Assuming the Smithsonian even has military-grade aircraft, Steve would still have no clue how to fly it. It's like me saying that because I can canoe, I could also drive an aircraft carrier. Honestly, it just grinds my ape gears, you know? Well, right as they're taking off, Wonder Woman realizes that radar will track them, so she decides to pull another power out of her bottomless bag of plot hole fillers and make the plane invisible. They couldn't resist the invisible jet plug. They get to Egypt, and as they are driving down the road of a massive country, who do they happen to run into? None other than our dear Max Lord. Another ridiculous action scene ensues. Steve is driving the world's most durable car, one that can take 20 assault rifle rounds to the engine and just keep on going. Wonder Woman gets injured, showing us that she's weakening. Steve seems like he doesn't know what to do during the scene, because he's just kind of dinking around trying to make himself somewhat useful. Wonder Woman is unable to stop Max from getting away, however. After granting hundreds more wishes, the world is truly descending into chaos, and Max beelines it for the White House. He asks Reagan to make a wish, and you would expect him to say something like, "World peace," or "I wish for this crisis to be over." But he's just like, I'll take more nukes, please." Wonder Woman and Steve show up, and now we know she can bleed, but she's still more than capable of beating down any male she encounters. She finally meets her match, though, when Kristen Wiig comes back and delivers a classic gal-on-gal beatdown. Not sure how much of this she can take, or how her face doesn't look like Joanna's, since she can be injured now. Meanwhile, Steve could have stopped the entire thing after he cuffs himself to Max. Simply just wish for all this to be undone. But the writers once again quickly move past that, tossing all logic and reason aside. At this point, Wonder Woman has to say goodbye to her boyfriend, because she's getting too weak. And it's supposed to be a sad moment, but I was still deeply disturbed by the fact that the real owner of the body is off suffering somewhere, so I just couldn't bring myself to care. Luckily for Max, there were some plans about satellite technology in the Oval Office just laying around, and so he makes his way over to the Satellite Military Center, where he will be able to touch the whole world, since you have to be touching him to have your wish granted. Kristen Wiig accompanies him, and she asks him to be made an apex predator. So he turns her into one of the characters from Cats. You probably can't even tell which movie is which right here. Oh, Kristen. You should have said something, Kristen. You should have put a stop to this, Kristen. Why, Kristen? Why did you do this? A huge mistake on the part of the writers, in my opinion, as we know it's been proven by science that the apex predator is a primate. Did you know that the word ape comprises nearly 75% of the word apex? Truly astounding if you think about it, really. Anyways, Cheetah and Wonder Woman have a lame showdown where Wonder Woman's magical armor that is supposed to be impossible to destroy, mythical, and strong just gets shredded to bits. They twirl around in the air together like a little circus act, and then Wonder Woman gets tired of the dance and she decides to deliver a little shockity shock. But don't worry, all you Kristen Wiig lovers out there, she's just fine. Inside the compound, Max starts broadcasting to the world that they can make any wish, and most people are probably like, who's this crazy American on my TV? Like, I don't even understand this guy. You know, seeing that 6 out of 7.5 billion people don't speak English. But somehow, they still know to make these wishes, so more and more people are making wishes. Wonder Woman tries to stop him, but a strong gust of wind that I theorize is being generated from the collective butt of this movie's writing team is strong enough to hold her back. She's able to get her lasso of truth around his ankle, though, and make her own broadcast. She gives a beautiful speech about how you have to face the reality of your situation, work for what you want, accept the truth. You know, some points that actually resonate with an ape like me. Her speech is so powerful that everyone in the world, including Max, takes back their wish. That's a pretty big assumption on the part of the writers here, that not even one person out of 7.5 billion people is going to hold on to whatever greedy wish they just made. Like if there was even one person that wished ill will on the world, and they were still out there, this whole speech would be for nothing, because some 12-year-old Fortnite-loving troll could just be like, haha, I wish the whole world would turn into a giant poop, haha, and then the entire movie would just fall apart. Conveniently, though, this does not happen, and Max takes a helicopter back to find his son, and as far as we know, he rides off into the sunset like nothing even happened. Aww. Someone needs to find this man and punish him for the many lives lost due to his irresponsible behavior. It's kind of like the movie was preaching this idea that you can't just wish for things, you have to work for things. But also, you can just do whatever you want, and then pretend it didn't happen, and no matter how bad it was, you can ignore the consequences. The final scene shows her walking through the streets, and she runs into the man whose poor body was possessed by Steve, and they flirt just a little bit. This guy looks like an absolute goober compared to this specimen, but hey, it's her choice, not mine. The movie was a complete dumpster fire. It needed to be cut down by about 45 minutes or so. There were so many pointless scenes, it just ran on and on. Like after the initial mall scene, there's a solid 45-minute chunk of time until we see some action again. And if you came into this expecting a fast-paced action movie, you stand to be severely disappointed. I felt like the movie had some overt political jabs. At one point, Wonder Woman is like, I hate guns, as she crushes one. I probably wouldn't care for guns either if I had superhuman strength and a body that deflects bullets. I constantly saw no more nukes signs. And with Ronald Reagan wishing for more nukes, you just get the idea that they were really trying to rewrite history a little bit by pushing this contrived picture of a crazy militaristic warmongering fool. But in reality, whether you hated Reagan or not, he tried to abolish nuclear weapons in his meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev. I think that Patty Jenkins has some stored up aggression towards men as well, because the entire movie you have men portrayed as nothing but objectifiers of women. They're either hitting on these poor women, they're attacking these women, or they're getting beat on by these women. There was a pretty big cast for this movie, but they were heavily underutilized. The main antagonist is this sniveling moron in half the scenes anytime he's put in danger. So it's hard to take him seriously as the entire movie we see his descent into madness, and it just reminds me of Cricket from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Chris Pine is there only as a convenient sacrificial lamb helping to uphold a lazy plot. Gal Gadot wishes him into existence so that she will have to wish him back out again to create one single heart-wrenching scene. But between that, he barely does anything the whole movie. He just seems like a background decoration, as he doesn't have any real value that he can offer to Wonder Woman. Kristen Wiig is Kristen Wiig. I mean, she plays the same character in every movie. She definitely got the short end of the stick in this one, though.
What are those?
I will say that I was impressed with Gal Gadot's acting ability when she had to say goodbye to Chris. I would say that, she sold it pretty well. I didn't think she had it in her, and if Chris Pine hadn't possessed another human being with his own hopes and dreams, I might have actually felt bad. The budget on this movie was pretty dang fat, but you would not know that from watching the fight scenes. They just looked so cheesy and fake. There was no sense of uniqueness to the action sequences at all. We've seen all these scenes done by other movies and done better. The plot was one of those situations where it seems to me like someone said, hey, this idea of wish making and losing something valuable could make for a great movie. And everyone was like, yeah, let's do it. But no one wanted to wrestle with a storyline like this and all the paradoxical outcomes that could arise as a result. It seems like this huge catastrophe was completely preventable because at any point someone could have just wished for it all to be undone. They should have established that only Max Lord could approve wishes or reject them or something to at least give the plot some element of believability. I just felt myself like wasting away with each passing minute in this film. My brain was actively decaying and my ape instincts were being numbed by the second. My wife kept laughing during the movie, not out of delight or entertainment, but rather contempt. Contempt that Hollywood had insulted her with another poorly written disaster. Someone needs to hold these people accountable. So I thought, who better than myself, Mr. Ape, to launch a full-scale ape attack. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
You damn dirty ape!
But most importantly, remember this. If you don't stand up to it, let them know you're still an ape deep down where it counts. You're just going to get washed away.